Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm the Tome Scourer, and today we have a deck tech on one of my most favorite decks of all time and my most fun deck, Roon of the Hidden Realm. Now, this is not going to be your most competitive of decks. Obviously, this is not CEDH, but it's a lot of fun and some casual games, a lot of interaction, a lot of card draw. Basically, the things that make Commander a lot of fun, in my opinion. So, with Roon, we have a 4/4 for 2 green, white, and blue. So 2 in Bant, and 4/4 with Vigilance and Trample. And it says, pay 2 and tap it, exile another target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, all right? So obviously, this is going to be a blink commander, and this is not the only card in here that's going to allow us to blink. As you'll see, we're going to be doing a lot of blinking and a lot of enter the battlefield abilities. So really, again, a fun deck, a lot of interaction, and just overall really fun to play. So let's take a look at it. So that's our commander. The first card off the top here, this is probably the best card in the deck. It is so good in this. If I get a tutor right away, either Eladamri's Call or Worldly Tutor, I'm going to tutor this up first because Recruit of the Guard says, when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. We have so many creatures in here that have toughness 2 or less that if we can keep blinking this thing, we're going to get all of our some of our most powerful creatures into our hand to continue to play, and those creatures also have enter the battlefield abilities. So I don't see this card in a lot of Roon lists, and I'm very surprised by that because it is so good, and this is something that you want to have in your opening hand or tutor for right away is Recruit of the Guard, and we'll see why here in a second. All right, next we have Wall of Blossoms, and look at this old border. I did kind of like not really bling this deck out really, but I wanted to make sure I got some stuff with the old border treatment or actual old border cards themselves, so that was be fun for this deck. So you'll notice that as we go through it. All right, so first of all, we have a couple card draw things. We have Wall of Blossoms, enters the battlefield, draw a card. Always going to be good if we can start blinking that and get some more card draw. We have Coiling Oracle. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top card, or reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card in your hand. So, again, this is sort of just like card draw and some ramp all built into one. Next, we have Mull Drifter, so some more card draw. As you can see, this has a toughness 2 or less, so Imperial Recruiter of the Guard is going to be able to tutor this up for us. So Mull Drifter is always nice. All right, and then we do have a bunch of blink effects in here that's not just our commander. So we have Thassa, Deep Dwelling, so we can blink some stuff at our end step and bring it back. And we also have that tap down ability on here, which is really nice. Plus we have a 6/5 Indestructible Beater. Can't really beat that. That was a bad pun. All right, next we have Brago, King Eternal, and this card is, it doesn't need any introduction. It's great when it deals combat damage, exile any number of target non-land permanents you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. All right, so we're going to be able to blink a bunch of stuff, creatures, artifacts, so they can untap all kinds of things after it deals combat damage. That's going to be able to open if we can blink a couple artifacts and get some extra mana for second main phase to cast some more stuff. This thing is perfect for that. All right. Next, we have Yorion. This is in here just so that we can blink a bunch of stuff when it enters the battlefield. We're going to exile it, return it at the beginning of the next end step so we can do everything, all non-land permanents. We'll probably do that to just about everything on our battlefield at that point. All right. Next, we have Emil the Blessed. This is a great card because you pay 3 and you exile a creature and then return to the battlefield under its owner control. So this is like an instant blink, all right? We don't have to wait till the end step. If we can blink something right away or blink something and then get it back right away, we could do really well with this thing. Plus, it has some built-in protection for some creatures that we don't want to see either destroyed or go to our graveyard, or exiled. This protects us from that because it blinks it and it comes back right away, which is really nice for us. All right. Next, we have Restoration Angel. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-angel creature, then return that card to the battlefield under control. So again, another instant blink, not at the end step. Very helpful here. All right. Next, we have Wood Elves, just so we can go search our library for some forest cards and put them onto the battlefield. Next, we have Perplexing Chimera. This card is a lot of fun because basically what you can do is you have this on the battlefield, right? Somebody casts a good spell. that you want to take or you want to steal, if it's either a creature, an artifact, or something else, you can just exchange control of Perplexing Chimera with that and gain control of their spell, whether it's a permanent or an instant or sorcery, whatever it may be. You can take it from them or choose new targets for your instants and sorceries, and then we can blink it with either Roon or a meal or something like that and get it back under our control at the end. So we can just keep doing this over and over again and basically just keep stealing people's their spells or things that they cast, and then just getting this right back into our hand, which is awesome. All right, next we have Solemn Simulacrum. So everyone knows this. When it enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for a basic card or basic land, put it onto the battlefield. All right. Next, we have a fantastic card draw here with Prime Speaker Zagana. Blinking this bad lady here, we're going to draw us a lot of cards, a whole lot of cards. All right. And plus, it can be tutored with Recruit of the Guard because its toughness is only 1. I mean, this is a 1/1 creature that's just totally insane and can draw us tons of cards, and we can tutor for it with a couple of our cards that we have, with our creatures that we can blink, which is just great. All right. Next, we have Diluvian Primordial, just a fun card so that when it enters the battlefield, you can cast instants or sorceries from an opponent's graveyard without paying their mana cost. So it's really fun. You can just get spells for free, basically, just by bouncing it. Next, we have Agent of Treachery. Yeah, this card is just dumb, but, you know, it goes great in this deck. And if we can start stealing some extra permanents, we're going to be drawing some cards with this as well. Next, we have Soul Herder, a great card here from the original Modern Horizons. I did get the foil copy of this and the old border treatment. So whenever a card is exiled from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. All right. Next, we have more card draw here with Soul of the Harvest. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. Sun Titan is going to be a good one because when it enters the battlefield, we can return something with converted mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to our hand. To the battlefield, which makes it even more busted in this deck. And when it attacks, it does the same thing, right? So we can blink it and we can attack with it, and we're going to get stuff back from our graveyard. So lots of recursion with Sun Titan. Next, we have Terastodon, which is a fun card. You get to destroy some permanents and give your opponent some 3/3 green elephants. But you know what? 3/3 elephants are a lot better than some scary cards that are out there. So this is a great removal spell, and bouncing that, you know, eventually they could have a bunch of 3/3s if I'm taking out their best stuff. That's fine with me. All right. Very important card in this deck is Eternal Witness. We're going to want to get stuff back from our graveyard into our hand, and bouncing this, I mean, we're going to try, like, if we have this out, we're going to do our best to keep our graveyard empty and keep things in our hands, keep our hands full, and make sure that we get our stuff back that we need. All right. And then we have Revel Arc. When it enters the battlefield, return 2 target creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So some other good recursion there. And then we have Flicker Wisp, so that we can exile something until the next end step. We can do this to our opponent's stuff if they have something tricky out there that we need to get rid of, just for at least for that turn. We could do that. So that's really nice. I know, like, a lot of people in my play group play Maze of Ith, so to make sure we can get rid of Maze of Ith so that we can swing through with our biggest stuff is kind of nice. All right. Next, we have Duplicant for some more removal. Exiling cards, just continue to flicker this thing and exile people's permanents. It's good. All right, Reclamation Sage, again, some more removal, destroying target artifact or enchantments. Avenger of Zendikar, if we start flickering this thing, it gets out of control pretty quickly, making a lot of plant tokens. Yeah, I mean, it's just great in this deck. Seedborn Muse, so that we can flicker things on our opponent's turn. Very important to have this one out. Untapping all things during our opponent's untap step. Then we can make sure that we can cast spells, or we can use our abilities, some of our flickering abilities from our creatures on our opponent's turns, which is great. And that goes really well with this one. If we can flicker this on our opponent's turn, if we have Seaborn Muse out and we're untapping everything, we can play Venser and counter spells, or not really counter, but return it to their hands. So it's kind of like countering almost, I guess. It just slows your opponent down quite a bit, which is awesome. Next, we have Deadeye Navigator, so we can get some infinite stuff going on here with Peregrine Drake, which is coming up here soon. Plus, we can use this to flicker things, whether it be Agent of Treachery or Avenger of Zendikar, whatever it may be. It just helps us to flicker more stuff. All right. Some more removal here with Acidic Slime, destroying a target artifact, enchantment, or land. Get rid of those pesky lands. I don't destroy lands that just tap for mana. I only would destroy a land that's, unless it's like, Gaia's Cradle or something like that. Yeah, I'd probably destroy that. But really, you're going for the utility lands with that. Next, we have Peregrine Drake. This really helps out to get our mana going and beef up, and using Deadeye Navigator with this, or, just being able to untap those lands and playing extra spells is really, really good. All right. Next, we have Karmic Guide, and it also, it'll return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. All right. And then, finally, for our last creature, we do have Archaeomancer in here, which is nice, because if we have a bunch of our instants and sorceries in our graveyard, we can flicker this and get those back into our hand, so we can cast those instants and sorceries over again. All right, so that's the creature package there. Pretty good stuff, I think. It makes it a lot of fun, a lot of interaction, a lot of card draw. All right. So we do have the whole tutor package in here in Bant. We have Enlightened Tutor to get our artifacts and enchantments. We have Mystical Tutors for instants and sorceries. And we have Worldly Tutor for our creatures. All right. And we also have Eladamri's Call. So that's 3 cards in here that we can tutor for creatures for. We have Eladamri's Call, Worldly Tutor, and Recruiter of the Guard. All right. So those are going to be our cards that we're really going to want to try and get our hands on, so we can get some of those creatures we need to get these enter the battlefield effects. We only have 2 counter spells in here, one being Counterspell, the other one being Dovin's Veto. All right. A couple of removal spells. We do have Path to Exile, and we have Beast Within for our removal package. And I guess this is a removal spell too. We have Cyclonic Rift, this really old beat up copy that was sitting in a box for the longest time until somebody found out that it was actually worth money and took it out when it was too late. But hey, it looks cool, right? All right, next we have a couple of flickering instants. We have Ephemerate, and with the rebound on there, that makes it really nice so that we can do it again. We have Eerie Interlude, which is really nice. It's very good for board wipes and just protection, making sure that we can exile stuff and bring it back at the end step, so that we don't lose stuff that we want to keep. Next thing, we have Momentary Blink. And again, most of the time this is going to be used for protection. We have the permanents that we need to exile stuff and return it. So these cards, like Momentary Blink, Eerie Interlude, it's basically for protection, but we also get that added benefit of getting those ETB triggers when they come back to the battlefield. All right, so next we got a couple ramp spells. We got Skyshroud Claim, and then we have Farseek and Rampant Growth. So those are our ramp spells. Then we do have Time Warp. This one can combo off a little bit, and you can get infinite turns if you have the right cards out. I just put in here, I just wanted to have 1 extra turn spell, but you can end up getting this back to your hand with Eternal Witness. And basically, if you flicker Eternal Witness and you get this back in your hand, or you get Archaeomancer, or you flicker Archaeomancer and get this back in your hand, this is basically, you'll be able to take infinite turns with this if you have the right cards out. Do have a couple Wraths with Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict. All right. Then we have our artifacts here, our enchantments. Our enchantments. We have the first one, Mirari's Wake, so we can get a little ramp going on, plus buff our creatures a little bit, so that way we can double up our mana. We have Guardian Project, which does work because this is an enter the battlefield trigger, not a cast trigger. So every time one of our creatures is going to come back into the battlefield after flickering, we're going to get it to draw a card. Defense of the Heart. This card is great. This should be played in just about every green EDH deck that you can think of, because it's just that good. Whenever an opponent, or if one of your opponents has 3 or more creatures, sacrifice it, search your library for 2 creature cards, and put them into play. That is pretty busted in this deck. All right. Then we have Aura Shards, because we're going to have a lot of creatures enter the battlefields, get rid of artifacts and enchantments. I really like this card, Aid from the Cowl, all right? It says, at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you can put it onto the battlefield. So it's kind of like card draw or ramp. If it's a permanent, if it's a land, or if it's a creature, or if it's an artifact, or if it's an enchantment, we're going to put it on the battlefield. And a lot of the times, we're going to have something that left the battlefield during one of our turns. All right, so there were our instants and sorceries and our enchantments. Next, for our ramp, we have Chromatic Lantern. All right, our artifacts, we have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, because green and blue is probably going to be played at an EDH table, so I mean this will be good. Maybe white too. Lightning Greaves, protect our commander if we need to, or we can move it to something else if we want to attach our one equipment to it. We'll have to move Lightning Greaves off of there, but it's good protection. Panharmonicon is fantastic in this deck. For triggered ability, so an ETB ability happens, it's going to happen an additional time, so this is obviously a must. Conjurer's Closet helps us to also flicker things and bring them back to the battlefield at our end step. And then we have Sundial of the Infinite, which is great in Roon because we can exile somebody else's creature with Roon and then end the turn, and then they don't get it back at the beginning of the next end step. So there's a great removal in here to go along with Roon. And then we do have our one equipment, a newer card here, Sword of Hearth and Home. This is great for ramp. Roon does have trample, so if we can attach this to him, we're probably going to be doing some damage with it. All right, and when it does damage, exile up to one target creature, so we get to flicker, and we get to search our library for a basic land card. Then we get to put both those onto the battlefield and then shuffle. All right, so this is awesome in this deck. Awesome, awesome, awesome. As soon as I saw it spoiled, I'm like, that's going right into Roon because it had to have been made for Roon. It had to have been. All right, so that's our artifacts here, and then the last thing is our lands. And we have sort of just your standard land package for a 3-color deck. All right, don't have a lot of utility lands. I'm not really I'm not really into playing utility lands. They probably would do well in here, but I want to make sure that I hit my colors. So I have Breeding Pool, Hallowed Fountain, Temple Garden for our shocks. We do have 3 fetches. So we have Misty, Flooded Strand, and Windswept Heath. Then we have our check lands. So Hinterland Harbor, Glacial Fortress, Sunpetal Grove. We do have our all 3 pathways and Bark Channel, Hengegate, and Branch Loft. We do have our what are they called? Not Shockland. What are these called? I don't know. The ones that deal 1 damage to you for your colors. So early on in the game, if you need those colors, could give you some fixing that you need. You have a Myakos, Brushland, a Dark Adakar Wastes. And then we do have our Battle Bond lands with Rejuvenating Springs and Sea of Clouds. Our Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Fabled Passage, and we have, I think, 6 forests, 5 islands, and 4 plains to round out the rest of the deck. All right, so that's my Roon deck. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, you thought I gave you some good ideas, there's some good tips or tricks in here. Please make sure you go down and gently tap that like button. Don't smash it. Smashing things is for the Hulk. All right. Please, if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.